Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about the floor press as a bench press tightness tool. You guys know I'm a big fan of the floor press. Love it. An exercise I prescribe to a lot of my clients, an exercise I use myself. Uh, and I use it mainly for the purpose of protecting my shoulder because I did get a little bit of shoulder issues from wider grip benching earlier this year. I tried to do that for most of the year. It didn't work well for me. I've always preached close grip, medium grip, don't go wide. And to me, wide means if your pinkies touch the rings at all. And I was doing ring fingers on the rings, hard on my shoulders. I've completely eliminated that now, though. I don't have any more shoulder pain, no inflammation there now that I've gone back to doing this. But I really like the floor press because of the shoulder health aspects. And for me, it happens to be a full range of motion exercise. Depending on if I arch or not, I'm either an inch away from the chest or I can touch the chest. So that's well and good. But one of the things that it also brings to the table is that it teaches you to get tight and stay tight on the bench press. Even if you come down and just do a very soft touch, because on a lot of these you'll notice I do a soft touch. I don't really pause hard on the floor. Very soft touch of the triceps on the floor. Okay, so you're just reaching that point where you touch and then you reverse. Well, what does that mean for bench press? Because, we could argue about sinking the bar versus touching. And I've honestly found, even though I've told people, hey man, it's good to sink the bar, but sinking the bar needs to be done under control. Yes, sinking the bar can help you with leg drive. But when we sink the bar, you have to stay tight. You have to keep your pecs engaged. And that's one of the things I notice with some of my clients is that as you start progressing them on any sort of rep work, right? Not we're doing maxes, but you get them to where they're doing, say, triples to progress on their bench, and you try to give them progression, you'll notice a lot of times they will start getting really, really loose. They'll lose all their tightness in an effort to try to rebound that weight off the bottom, right? Because it's getting heavy, they know it's heavy, and so they will tend to they drop the weight onto their chest. They'll get really loose and then try to almost rebound that weight to create an explosive effect. But when you do that, you're going to run into problems real quick. And it doesn't teach you to use your pecs as well, right? You don't use as much chest getting out of the bottom of the bench when you do that. You're trying to basically just rebound and do it. With the floor press, and this is one of the things with it, this is one of the reasons I think that the EMG studies show so much pectoral activation on the floor press. And what's interesting is that the floor press hits the upper chest, it's about as hard as an incline does, right? When you start getting to comparable rate of perceived exertions, similar percentage of your 1 rep max, and they look at it on EMGs, even the upper chest gets hit really hard on the floor press, right? Gets hit real hard. And when you think about it, it makes sense. It's because you have to keep a very high degree of tension on your pecs on the floor press. Unless you drop it all the way down and then try to reset it a little bit, you have to maintain a lot of tension on the pec. It forces you to stay tight. Because in order to do a soft touch and reverse, you have to stay tight. Because what happens if you drop down and get loose? Anyone who's done a floor press knows. What happens if you just plop down and let that weight plop down? Like a lot of guys do when they dive bomb their bench. It hurts. It hurts a lot. In fact, you can injure yourself doing that. You can bust your elbow open because you hit that floor. And when you hit that hard floor, even if it's a rubberized deck like I have, I'm on rubber and plywood. Well, not plywood, but wooden decking. If you hit that hard, it hurts. You are forced to control the eccentric. And you're forced to control the eccentric down into a position to where the pec has a large amount of tension still on it. Now, I'm not promoting necessarily continual tension and saying continual tension is a big deal because it really isn't. But the fact of the matter is, you are forced to reverse the weight, in some cases right at your chest, an inch off your chest, 2 inches, 3 inches off your chest, depending on how you're built, right? Some of you guys are having to reverse it under control and tightness. You're having to reverse that weight using the pecs. The pecs never lose their tightness. They stay engaged. So we end up getting this movement that forces us to keep the pecs under tension and then explode up with the pecs. We have to reverse the weight immediately, especially if you just do the very soft touch on the floor and then you reverse it. All right? So what we have is a terminal range of motion. We have a terminal range of motion, so it's not like just benching up in the air. Doing a partial like that is actually dangerous. And in a lot of ways, this is similar to a Soto press when you do that. But the difference is I don't like the Soto press for anyone other than a very, very advanced lifter. Okay, I don't like it. I think they would be better served with a floor press. And it has to do with the fact that, again, a partial in which you don't have a terminal range of motion is not a good thing. Right, it can cause injuries. This is why people like Jerry Ward have torn their pecs doing too many partials. But in the case of this, we have a terminal range of motion, so if something goes wrong, your range of motion can be limited. And because this forces you to use a slightly lighter weight, you're not in danger from the partial aspect. Because if the weight goes too far down because you're trying to lift heavier than your 1 rep max because you're not touching your chest, you're stopping 4 inches short on a bench, and you've shortened that muscle, you tend to tear a pec when something goes wrong, right? Floor press, that can't happen. If you fail, the floor stops you. Okay, the floor stops you. And it's extremely easy to get out from under. The floor press is one of the safest exercises you can do. I mean, realistically speaking, if we want to talk about safe exercises for your shoulders, for your chest, for not getting injured, the floor press is better than the bench. Incidentally, these days, obviously, I do more floor pressing than flat benching. I save my bench work for max work. My floor press is my main chest builder right now, personally. Not saying I won't rotate some bench back in. This is what I'm using. Yes, even the closed grip version. But it's very, very safe exercise. It's impossible to tear a pec on it almost. It's easier on your shoulders, and if you fail, you just let the bar fall. Those plates stop it from hitting your face and neck, and you just slide out from under it. If you fail it, you can just drop it above your neck. It won't hit you, right? The plates are in the way, they stop it. It's the safest exercise to miss a lift on as far as chest presses go. It's extremely safe. But we get this exercise that allows us to massively recruit the pectorals even with a lighter weight. I mean, it's, again, fantastic chest builder with really good data supporting that. But it teaches us to get tight on the bench. It teaches us to get tight on the bench while building the chest. So what does that translate over to? Translate over to people who are really, really bad a couple inches off the chest on the bench press. Right? So for you, and this is common of a very large percentage of raw benchers, when you go to hit a heavy bench and you miss it a couple inches off the chest, this exercise will help you with that. Now, people will say, well, I've done this exercise and my bench went up, but that's still my sticking point. Well, that might just be where your sticking point is. For a lot of raw benchers, I'm not saying all, there are exceptions to this rule. That may be your sticking point for the rest of your life, no matter how strong you get. But if that is your sticking point for the rest of your life, no matter how strong you get, if you get really good at exploding from that spot, your bench is going to keep going up. All right. And usually, though, guys who struggle with that are oftentimes guys who struggle with tightness, right? They struggle with staying tight on the bench. They struggle with it a lot. This teaches you to stay tight because you have to. If you're going to reverse it right there off the bottom, the pecs have to stay tight. Everything has to stay tight. You can't disengage the pecs. So that also can teach you to, when you do come down and pause on the chest, that when you sink it to get that leg drive, you've learned to keep the chest engaged. All right, it teaches you to control the weight because you have to control the weight on a floor press or it hurts. It teaches you how to control the eccentric, how to stay tight, how to reverse off the chest with the pecs tight. Right? This will give you better power out of the bottom. And it'll do so while putting a lot of meat on your chest because it uses a slightly lighter weight. and it's easier on the shoulder joints, we can do a lot of volume. And because it gives amazing chest activation on an easy to recover exercise that you can do a lot of volume on, what does that mean? It means your chest is going to get bigger. Okay, it means your chest is going to get bigger. If you have a lagging chest and you suck at the bottom of your bench and you struggle with tightness, this exercise should be a regular mainstay in your training. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.